All right, and then before we get too far splitting that case, we've actually got to remove the oil filter here because we have a plate that's on behind it that has got a couple 8mm bolts that'll hold everything together there. So that's what the plate looks like. Those cases are just held together by those bolts. Now we can spread stuff apart there, and then once we get it kind of to an area where we think it's gonna be, we don't need a hammer anymore, we can take it, set it on its side. I'm taking lift up. The reason why I kind of like to set it on its side there is so that we can kind of keep a lot of these bearings together on the gears and the shafts together. So that's why it's nice to slay on its side there and then pull it up. Obviously you've got some stuff that'll drop. I just try to be careful with pulling it up. We've got a couple washers that have fallen out there, and we'll figure out where those go, make sure those get put where they need to go. We've got our oil pump shaft here that runs down to our oil pump here. Crankshaft is here. We've got the rear, the piston here that we can now pull out at this time. We've got an oil line that runs down here. This is just to lubricate different areas of this crankcase. We've got our oil filter bolt here that fell down in there. Grab that there. That sits at this spot here, and that oil filter attaches onto that. So fairly common for those to get damaged, and so those can be replaced separately. This crankshaft now, we can just take a rubber mallet and tap it out the other way. I'd like to get this transmission pulled apart a little bit farther before we go and do that. We also have a linkage down here. This works as a tensioner for this oil pump chain here. So you can see once we pull this oil line here, we pull this tensioner here, you can actually adjust this tensioner if that oil pump chain is getting loose. So go ahead and pull our shift drum out there. There's our drum and our shift star that we pulled off previously. We'll slide on there. We can tighten that bolt up there. We've got our shift forks here. There's 3 forks. Take and slide that shaft out of there. We can pull those forks out, and then we can take and slide our transmission out. A lot of times these kind of work together. This is out far enough, loose enough to where it just slid right out. We've got a washer that slides on the end there. And then here's our other shaft here with a handful of gears. So we'll pull that out. And then, like I said, that crankshaft, we can tip this up, and a lot of times they'll just kind of fall out of place there. This one, we're going to inspect it to see if it is a rod that's bad, if it's the crankshaft, it's the bushings that are down in there. So keep an eye out for that. We'll show you how to inspect that and how to measure that. We've got our shift. We've got our water pump shaft here, and we've got a snap ring that attaches there, and you can push that water pump shaft out that direction. And then again, to pull this linkage out here, we've got a 12mm here. That's going to lift this side off. And then I would take and remove this Allen bolt here, and that tensioner should pop up. Then at that point, our shaft that runs along here. Here's a screen here that'll a lot of times stay inside there. You remember we pulled this and this off of there. So those 3 parts will go in there when it comes time to go back together. We've got a shift assembly here. Once we remove this nut here, this 12mm, that shift shaft will come out that other side there. So a couple more things to go here, and we will have this case completely stripped down. We'll go ahead, clean it up, and get it ready to go back together. I appreciate you guys watching. If you've got questions or comments, make sure and leave those below. Make sure you subscribe to our channel if you found this video helpful. Thanks a lot.